We go with it. We go with the flow, so to speak.
The thing you can count on is change, right?
Absolutely.
Which is kind
Yes.
of the theme today.
Isn't that coincidental?
I know. So Barry and I were wondering, have you had to end a relationship? And that's really hard. And then has somebody ended a relationship with you and it's felt really hard? And so today we're going to talk about mostly the right way to do it. We'll certainly touch on the not right way to do it, right? Because we need to be clear about what's not the right way.
Yeah. We'll break in what that means as well. So we'll get to that in a moment.
First, let's tell you that we're on the newsstreamingnetwork.com, WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network, radio and TV podcast #1 internet singles talk radio. And this is Let's Talk Dating with Christine and Barry. Hi, Barry.
Hi, Christine.
So I bet lots of people think, is there really a right way to end a relationship? Because it all just feels hard and nobody wants to hurt anybody's feelings and they don't want to be the bad guy. And it all just feels really wrong, I think.
Well, the thing is, I think some people think the right way to end a relationship is to be the one who's less damaged at the end of it. You know, I mean, it's kind of simplistic, but it's kind of what some people feel. It's like they want to come out of it with the least amount of emotional wounds and upset. Yeah. And sometimes, and it's interesting because just from personal experience, I was wired so that this is going many years ago, that when I ended relationships, I would make it so that she would leave me. So that way I'd feel better about myself because I didn't ruin her life, sort of thing. Yeah. So it was really messy. It wasn't clean. It wasn't healthy. And of course, every time it happened, the girlfriend who was with at the time pretty much saw through it anyway. But it was just an attempt to sort of be nice in quotes.
Yeah. I mean, really, unless you're a really bad person, generally we don't want to hurt somebody's feelings. We don't want to hurt their heart. We don't want to feel like the bad guy. We don't want to do something that feels so heartbreaking and heart-wrenching. Nobody wants to do that on purpose, ever. So so the thing I'm going to say is it's pretty impossible. It's pretty impossible not to do some of that a little bit. Because if it's only one person that wants to end and the other person doesn't, they're going to be sad. They're going to be upset. They're going to be disappointed. They're going to have to grieve the future that they thought they were going to have and the plans they were making and how vulnerable they'd gotten. So yeah, it's really okay that they could have their feelings. It's just what are our actions and our words that keep it from being worse? How to not make it worse.
Right. And the thing is, it is sense really the only, in quotes, right way you can end a relationship is if both partners are in the same place emotionally at the same time. So they both go, you know what, isn't working. Let's go in different ways, which it can happen. It's not very often, of course, but we're both partners on the same page, so to speak. But that's a rarity because, yes, as you said, most times it's one person who wants to leave and the other person doesn't have the same position. So there's discord and disruption and hurt feelings, which is going to happen. So the right way, it's more like the less bad way, might be the best way of putting it.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Now, it is optimum if both people, one or the other starts it, or both people go, yeah, I was feeling that too. I mean, really like you. I've enjoyed our time together. And it just seems like, we're not each other's future people. I mean, wow. Wouldn't that be nice if it happened more often? Because it's happened to me only a couple of times. Usually there's one that cares way more than the other, that's way more invested. And there's no way to not upset them. There's no way not to hurt their feelings. Because people always ask me, what's the way that I won't upset them and I won't hurt their feelings? There's none. There's none. As you said, only unless they're like, I was thinking the same thing. It's so interesting when that happens. But yeah, we're going to talk about when that doesn't happen.
Basically, yes. And the thing is, I mean, and we'll talk about ways to prepare for it in a way, ways to do it more effective way. I mean, one thing I was thinking of right away was that if you have a healthy relationship ongoing and you have what we've talked about, like have a state of the relationship meeting every couple of weeks or every month, whatever it is, then you tend to be on the same page as it progresses. So you know if it's starting to decline or fade. And so it can be not the ideal, but in a situation where you both get to the same point and go, you know what, I think this isn't lining up. And you both go, yeah, same thing for me too. But because you're both on the same page, because you've connected with each other more frequently on that conversation to see where you're going and what you're looking for. Because frankly, if you're in a healthy relationship, what do you want to be on the same page as your partner and have clarity that you're both in the same direction?
So in my world, what I've heard a lot is the two I'm going to be very grammatically incorrect. The two wrongest ways I've heard of, the most wrongest ways, is one is not doing anything. You just disappear, you ghost. I actually have three. Just disappear, just ghosting. And everybody says they want closure, and generally they really don't want closure, and they really don't want to believe what you're saying. So we're going to talk about how to go around that. The second wronger way is text. I think breaking up with somebody in a text is really awful, or an email. There's no personal connection. There's no way of having some emotion about it, have them hear the tone of your voice. And the third, that, I mean, I should count how many times I've had men become clients who said, I came home, the house was cleared out of furniture, there was divorce papers on the floor, and I knew there was some problems. I had no idea it was this big.
Yeah, it's almost like they're blindsided.
Yes. They feel, and the women are like, I know I told him, but when we talk about, well, what kind of things did she allude to, and what were some of the things she said a lot? And often what we do, this is the setup to how to either not get to that point of breaking up or do it better. We keep telling you, lovely men, what's wrong. You never spend time with me. You're not affectionate enough. You never keep your word. And we don't give you examples, one. And two, we don't tell you what would we like instead. I need this much time every day. I need this many texts, this many phone calls, this many hugs, this many times making love a week. We don't say any of that most of the time in those words, so that you go, could I do that or not? I don't know. Yeah, I probably could if it's going to keep you from leaving. Or, yeah, I really could never. And then he'll say, oh, I see what the thing was. But I have two men I'm coaching right now that their hesitancy was to date again because they said, I know I did something really wrong and I have no idea what it is, and I don't want to do it again. And until I figure out what I did, I don't want to date anymore. You relate to that from a guy's point of view. You want to know.
Clarity is a big thing for us as men. It's like just knowing, I don't want to be demeaning in a sense, but in some ways men in some ways are like children in the sense that we want simple steps laid in front of us, make it easier for us. And I'm not just trying to demean us as a species, but I'm saying that it makes our lives easier, and plus it gives us steps to do. The challenge is in the emotional realm. We're not expert like the women are. And so if there's something you need that helps us serve you in a way that we can do, we want to do, you need to put it in language we understand that we can do things with. Because you say you want to feel more loved, that's very amorphous. Does that mean you want to be hugged more? You want to be made love to more? You want to be kissed more? You want to have written notes to you sent to you? We don't know. Automatically, we can, hopefully, if we're wise enough, we'll be intuitive enough to know, but that's not very often for men. So for the ladies to be able to give the men the benefit of the doubt to say, here's what I really want that would work for me. And it sounds clinical in a way, or very artificial to say that. But the reality is, if it gets you what you want, why wouldn't you use that tool?
So then I'm so glad you said that, because I like it when you guys call yourselves out about, we really like simple. We like Twitter, short, concise sentences to the point, because it sounds even better coming from your lovely British baritone voice.
I do what I can.
Thank you. And so I'm going to call out women that we think we shouldn't have to say it. You should just know, the more you care about us, and the more we complain, and the more we keep telling you what's wrong, you'll know to fix it. Because when you tell us, I really liked the dress yesterday, not so much today, there's a good chance a lot of us, not all, are never going to wear that dress again. Because the criticism
is permanent.
Often encourages women to do something differently. What happens for men, and you expressed it so well, is the criticism just leaves you confused and backing up and frustrated, because you're okay if we say, I don't like this, do this instead. So now you have an action, you have a plan, instead of this is what's wrong and you just keep backing up. So very common, I hear this when people come to me before they've broken up, or I hear that they've broken up and what happened. This is a big part of it, that we women do not communicate clearly. First, we don't figure out what we need and want. and then we don't communicate it clearly to you, and then we get to sit and wait, can you do that? Because if you can't, okay, now we
Mhm.
know. But you had really specific, like the guy talked about from last year, that I said I love having my door open all the time, and he said no, can't do it. Can't do it every time. Probably won't do it much. So, okay, good to know. So we had this whole out. I don't just get huffy that he doesn't open the door or open it myself or complain. I just said, oh, okay, isn't my kind of person with other
Mhm.
things. I always have to say that because you go, you broke up with them because you didn't open the door. No, it was definitely part of it, though, big part of it.
Yeah.
So when you are thinking about ending your relationship, I think it's important to own, have I communicated my upsetness enough? Both sides. If there's something that you're seeing, this isn't working, it's really not working.
Right.
Have you communicated, boy, this is happening. I really need this instead. Very specific, this instead. Is it something you could do? That doesn't happen very often at all. Because as you
No.
said, if you're having the regular meetings, you now are rare. Yeah, there's that thing, and we just can't do it.
Right. And that's the thing is, it's not a like coming for the boss type meeting. It's more about having a conversation where you say, okay, this is my experience, what I've had. What's your experience? And speaking to that, the challenge is in the at it in the right way is it's rare for the individuals in a relationship to say, this is my experience, this is what I'm feeling, and I'm not getting that experience from you, rather than saying, you did this wrong, you did this wrong, you did this wrong. It's like the blame game isn't the best way to end a relationship. And yes, you do need to do the other person, of course. It is a breakup between the two of you. But it has to come from a place of ownership of your own experience or what isn't working out. So the other person can see, oh, I see what I missed there. Because again, we're talking about also any relationship, but in sometimes you may be able to save the relationship if you catch it early enough. And again, the meetings every frequency are helpful for that. But the opportunities to choose differently should be sprinkled along the way, so to speak.
And it is quite amazing how many times I'll ask a woman, well, what is it that you'd really like? And they don't know, which is perfectly fine. And now you know you don't know. So how would he ever know? How would he
Right.
ever know what to do? And
Mhm.
then to now say, well, what would make me happy? What would I like every day or every other day or once a week or once a month from him? Because then you can now tell him in this lovely, concise way. And then the other part that women roll their eyes about is that when he does it, say, thank you. Thanks for remembering. Thanks for doing that. Because
Yeah.
they go, he started out doing all these great things and then he stopped. And I said, well, did you say thank you? No. Say thank you. So
Yeah.
these are some of the preventative things that you don't get to the end. Because if you're going to get to the end, it's a very much cleaner conversation if you've done some of these things ahead of time, right, Barry?
Absolutely. But one of the things that men thrive on is to be appreciated. So when a woman thanks a man for something, it's like it goes in his little box of like, oh, good, she appreciates me. And that's what it's a lot of ways about. That's the strokes and the positive feelings that we get that we're doing the right thing. It's like, we take out the trash. It's nice to be thanked. It's not a big effort. Like, and obviously, if it's an incompatible duty to do it, fine. But being thanked just makes it just a little bit more comfortable, a little bit nicer to do that. And we feel a bit more appreciated. And appreciation is a big part of what men want in a relationship.
And if we thank you every time, won't you want to do it every time? Because you'll get more thanking. And if it
Absolutely.
keeps us in a better mood, because we're not all huffy that the trash isn't getting taken out and we didn't say anything about it.
That's the biggest challenge, I think. And you said earlier, you said it more blatantly, I'll say it blatantly as well, is that women need to realize that men are not mind readers. We may be smart, but we don't read minds. And I know, ladies, you can read each other's minds, but not men. We can't do that, because the truth is, when you think something about what we didn't do, we're not necessarily aware that you think that because you didn't tell us. So it doesn't help if you don't actually mouth it and express it and share it, so we know we do something differently, or we actually did the right thing and we get to be thanked for it.
Yeah, because then you want to do it again. And then
Mm-hmm.
if in fact you'd like it differently, you start out saying, thanks, so appreciate that you did that. And gosh, what would make me even happier instead of next time? What would make me even happier is if, oh, would you get all the bathroom trash cans? Or would you also take out the recycle stuff too? That would be great. Okay. And then when he does it, he remembers all those things. Thanks. Oh, thanks. Thanks for doing all that. It's so easy because sadly, it is a big portion of why people's relationships end, because they haven't communicated.
Yeah. It's also partly the fact that there's this sense that shouldn't thank them because they know they should be doing it, sort of thing. It's that whole judgment of shoulds of blaming and stuff that goes on. And that's one of the problems that relationships have, is there's so much accumulated crud in the way between the two partners, because the communication is not free flowing both ways. And it's all this stuff of, well, they should know better. I shouldn't have to remind them. Well, yes, that's the whole point, is that we do remind them, they do it, and you get to be thankful. That moves the relationship along in a positive way.
And generally, eventually, you won't have to remind them. I still would hope that you would thank them, but they really will get a new habit. But everybody needs chance to keep remind a few times how to form a new habit. Always. All of us need that. And if we could just be a little more graceful about it, it would be helpful.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So simple.
So you think, I've heard lately it's simple and hard.
Well, simple and not easy.
Simple, not easy. Definitely not easy.
Yeah.
Simple, because they always go, it's hard. Okay. But when you hear the instructions, do you admit they're kind of easy instructions? It still feels hard. Okay. So I'll say not easy. I like it. That's so much better. But it is amazing how and it's so amazing to hear the instructions really are quite easy to avoid so much of it. Now, this is because we're saying relationship in this title. So a lot of this advice is if you've been dating for a little while, and this is some groundwork that you said in a way to keep your relationship going on a smoother way and keep adjusting, because it's so not a static thing. It's always an adjusting thing forever. I've cited the two people in my life that are married 50 and 60 years. They're still doing adjusting with each other, because you keep changing as a person. Your relationship changes. The stuff outside your relationship changes. Why would you think everything's going to stay static? That's just kind of silly. As we said at the beginning of the podcast, we were talking about how extraordinarily hot it is right now and how there seems to be changes. So it's the thing we can all count on, that there's some sort of change everywhere all the time. And wouldn't it be with us and the person that we're in a relationship with?
Yeah, absolutely.
So when we're starting out in a relationship, we'll talk a little bit more about that, because that's when you can think, after one date or two dates or three dates, or even the first communication, how to end it so that you don't feel like the bad guy, because that's one of the hard things, is to feel like the bad guy, right?
Yeah. And we're also going to talk, because I know we're going to help you in a commercial break in a minute, but we're going to talk after we come back from the break. Definitely talk about the things that have to do with a long-term relationship, maybe after years and decades, how to end a relationship that way, because that's a whole different conversation in some ways, although some ways very similar as well. So yes, definitely. We'll tell you more when we come back. So you want to share your ways to get in touch with you?
Yes. So if you've been broken up with, or you want to break up with somebody and you'd like to learn more about how to do that on a real personal level, you can get a hold of me by going to my website, which is www.theperfectcatch.com, and click on the questionnaire, what's holding you back from love, in the middle of my website. And it'll give you a brief questionnaire to fill out. Then you have access to my calendar, that you can make an appointment at your leisure to have a complimentary conversation with me. You can also send me a personal email at Christine@theperfectcatch.com. And how would they get a hold of you, Barry?
Well, similarly to Christine, I have a website with a way to get in touch with me. And my site is my name, which is barryselby.com. And on top of the screen, there's three sections on the homepage. For the top section, similarly, is a button you can tap on to get in touch with me on my calendar. So you click on the button at the top, which is Let's Chat. There's a form you fill out. Actually, you get my calendar first, then you fill out the form, and then you get my calendar. I send a Zoom link, and we have a meeting from that point. It's a 20-minute discovery session, gift from me to you. Help you get clarity of what you're looking for, and if we want to work together, because it's not a requirement, but it's definitely something we can talk about. You can also drop me an email directly at barryselby.com, and if you have any questions, reach out to me that way as well.
And we will be right back. We're going to have a commercial from this wonderful station that produces and distributes our wonderful podcast, and we'll be right back with Let's Talk Dating, talking about how to end a relationship the right way.
See you in a moment.
Okay. Hello, this is Let's Talk Dating with Christine and Barry, and today we're talking about how to end a relationship the right way.
Mhm.
In the first part, before the commercial break, we talked a lot about how to get yourself a better foundation so that maybe it won't end up in a relationship that you have to end, because so many relationships end because of misunderstandings.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But now we're going to talk about the basic incompatibility, because you don't
Mm.
know till you start getting to know somebody that, gosh, their profile looked really good, or gosh, you're part of something, or you have this big chemical reaction to each other, because people do date with that reason too. And how do you find out sooner than later that you aren't a match? And it doesn't make either of you bad people, just not each other's people, right?
Right. The big thing realizing in this conversation is just to contextualize, especially in the early dating, we are doing a lot of sorting out of things. We're clarifying what matches, what doesn't match, and everything else. And if you have, as we talked about in other episodes, a really good clarity about your green flags and what you really want, and the red flags and what you really don't want, you want to basically check those off pretty early in the dating sequence. You know that this is the person you want to be with.
Mhm.
And if you realize there's a red flag that you have with them, which means it's something that won't change, it's totally fine to be saying, I realize something that you do that I don't, or I do and you don't, and that doesn't work for me. And it's like, I really enjoy our time together. However, I think I'm going to look somewhere else for a partner, which is fair to do. But the challenge is, what people do is they meet somebody and they stick that green flag list, that red flag list in a little box in the corner. They don't even look at it. And they go, like you said, driven by hormones, whatever it is. And then they wonder why it's not working 3 months, 3 weeks, 3 days into the relationship.
Yeah. And what I've heard frequently, to capitalize on your point, is that they're so madly in love in a week or two, and we've talked about everything. I love that. I said, download a pre-married counseling questionnaire and just ask, 10 of those questions, because I know you haven't asked any of those questions.
Right.
And then, as you said, a month, sometimes 6 months, there's this thing that shows up.
Yep.
And if when I get to talk to somebody like that, that's had that experience, okay, I'm so sad, and it's very sympathetic, that's the first part of the conversation. And then, well, did you have any hints? Tell me about your conversation about that subject. And what sorts of comments did you make in your head? And often, both men and women, well, it wasn't that big of a thing. And there were all these other really good things. Or, I know they'll change. When I, if I'm nicer, prettier, funnier, skinnier, if I push them enough, if I can teach them, John Gray calls it the home improvement committee, cracks me up, then it'll be fine. But if it's a really big thing, it's not going to be fine. And the odds are they're probably not going to change. It's really who they are. And now you're really committed. Maybe you've moved in together, or you've done something that's made you even more connected. And then it's even harder, because we will talk about how hard that is when you're now in a relationship. This is how you avoid that part, as Barry brought up about the flags. But if the very first time you're talking on the phone or in person, what are your top three? What's the top three that if you say, I can't have this, what would you like instead of? What are the top three that you have to have? Find
Mhm.
out.
Yep.
And at least two of the three, because sometimes the one, if you get the other two, then you need another conversation about the third thing. You can't discount them. You can't say, oh, I changed my mind. I don't need that because there's all these other cool things. Generally, I wouldn't say 100%, but generally that doesn't work.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's such a interesting thing. It's amazing how many people, I'm going to say this in a nice way, if I can. How many people have an absolute ignorance of what they really want when they meet somebody, or if they forget what they really want when they meet somebody, and they become enamored by this person, and they go through the whole honeymoon phase, and then they get married, and they have a real honeymoon, and then they go for 5 years, have kids and a family and have a house, and then 20 years down the road, they're going, why did I marry this person? And that's the challenge. So just to put that into conversation too, if you've been married a long time, or been in a long-term relationship, and it's not working, what if there's something worse, like they violated red flags, there was abuse, or they cheated on you, something else? ending the right way might be just getting yourself out of there right away. That may be the right way to do it. So this is, again, different perspective. Early in dating is one thing, a long-term relationship is something else as well. As I said before the break, having an ongoing monthly, quarterly, weekly get together, like a relationship status meeting type thing to discuss where you are, what things are going, what things are not working, you'll cut off a lot of those possibilities early on. You'll catch them early on so you can make different choices. But if this person's true colors show up in the relationship later on because they hid them really well early on, then some of this stuff is not really going to make a difference. It's like, it's not working. And the best way to leave is to get out of the relationship. Now, having a come to Jesus meeting type thing isn't necessarily the way to do it, but it may be a point where you need to basically do something very honest for yourself to say this is not working, when it's not going to change. And they may sort of come back and begging, and it's like, it's a mistake, it will never happen again, all this other stuff, and you know better, but you don't trust that. You got to trust your own intuition, instincts. I know I'm trying to condense the whole conversation into like 2 minutes, but just be aware we're talking about a lot about the early part of a relationship, because our focus is usually that's where we start in our conversations.
Yeah. So if you have gotten in a relationship, and even maybe if you've had this kind of conversation ongoing, and you see things that you think might be a challenge, you have different political views, and you think it's okay in the beginning, and then you have more of a discussion about how those people are running whatever, and how much energy do you have about that. People say, why would I talk about that? Because often we go, their morals, their moral compass, how they don't care enough about this kind of person or that kind of person. And it permeates more than just who's sitting in the White House or who's sitting in, the place in the city the mayor that's running your city or the governor of your state. That there's so many more far-reaching things about that, about how your personal life could be affected by the people that are whoever elected. So I tell people, please keep having that ongoing conversation, especially if it's different.
Yep.
You need to talk about it. And even if you can really, I know 2 people right now, they're absolutely constantly agreeing to disagree. Perfectly fine about it. But most people don't agree to disagree. And you need to know that as you're going along. So it could be religion. It could be you have children and they don't, and they think that you are raising them wrong. I'm sorry, you don't get an opinion. If they're not your kids, you don't. And if you don't agree with how they're raising their children, I'm not sure how that relationship's going to work out.
Right. There's so many parts of the relationship that don't expose themselves to later on in the relationship, unfortunately. And I just had this thought about the political stuff about having competing lawn signs. If you both how
like
that can be so,
or something.
yeah, it's like, don't vote for them, vote for this. That's what things. So anyway, putting that aside, again, communication is probably the biggest piece, as we talked about through the whole conversation. Is really, it comes down to how do you communicate? How do you stay in communication? So when things do change direction and maybe go off the rails, you're there present enough to catch it early on, so you don't have to be, or so you're not caught blindsided, and you're also not in reaction mode. Because the thing about being in a relationship the right way is to do it is to not be reacting and fighting back. You're choosing consciously to leave the relationship. And if ideally, where you don't wound the other person any more than they've already been wounded. That's kind of the bottom line of what would be the best way of doing it. Yeah. But then it becomes different every time.
The temptation is you're wrong and I'm right. And the most loving gift that you can give the other person is, I accept your point of view. It's just different than mine.
Yeah.
I accept why you're passionate about that. I accept why you think that. Well, it's so different than me. Wow, you have really good arguments about it. You have really good thoughts about it. I can tell you've really researched it. The impact that you see happening sounds fabulous. The impact that I'm seeing happening isn't fabulous. And it's hard. It's hard. Yeah. And I'm not sure I could get over it. And it's the kind of honest conversation when people say, I've talked about everything. This is not how people talk generally. That kind of honest conversation sometimes can finally go, okay, I so respect you in all these other ways. I have to be okay enough. That's the thing. I can't not like it. It can't go below the good enough line. If I can keep it at the good enough line, whoever the person is, then okay, keep going. And I told you about my friends that all of a sudden they were non-religious in different ways, and he went back to his Christian Science religion, and they had so much foundation and good stuff, and they'd communicated so well that it was a bump and they had to get over it, and they've been fine. It's probably been 15 years now since he went back, and it's not been an issue at all. So,
Right.
but you have to keep being honest. You kept going, yeah, it's really okay when it's not. You can't say it's okay when it's not. So when it's not okay and you've had a conversation about it, you can finally say, I just can't. I'm sorry. I'm sorry this hurts you. I really get that it hurts you. And we both tried really hard. I just can't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's really the optimum, right?
Ideally, yeah. I mean, just to speak on another relationship where there was a more conscious movement along the way. A couple of friends I know, I've talked about it before on the show, husband and wife, they got married. They both said when they got married, no kids, don't have kids. Fine. 15, 20 years into their marriage, they both came to the realization they wanted a kid. But it happened but their conversation along the way, so they got to the agreement at the point. So it wasn't about the fact that one said, I want a kid, the other one didn't, said to leave and go find somebody else. They both came to the same place, where as much as they didn't want a kid when they first got together and were in agreement, later on they came into agreement they both did want a kid. And they have a daughter, she's 25 now. And she's been the apple of their eye. I mean, it's just such a great daughter. Their family's so great and really cool people. But it was something that I watched them evolve through. I actually met them a couple of years before they had their kids. So I didn't know the previous 15, 20 years. But watching them mature in their relationship, that's probably the best way of putting it, is their views evolved and changed. And having them both come to agreement without even realizing they were on different, that they were going to do that was kind of a gift they had. So that can happen. But again, if it doesn't happen and you're really clear about what is you need and what the other person can't provide, that's when you need to look at it and say, okay, this is what I need for my own fulfillment, my own wholeness, makes me feel better. And if I can't get it from my partner, then I've got to look at choosing myself to leave and find somebody else. But it's got to be done again in an honorable, honest, and caring way. Because it's not about right, wrong. It's about different choices. That's what it comes down to.
That is such a lovely story. What a happy ending. Because, normally that would not have been a happy ending. Because it does take two yeses. You cannot have a no about kids. And that they both just kept working at it together. I just going, those are earthlings having really good behavior. I like it a lot. They're being very grown up. You know how I talk. Yeah. So you see that change is inevitable. And if you've already got a foundation of going, well, I feel different about this. How do you feel? Okay, I'm fine with that. And you're fine with that. And all these things we already do agree on, because you hope that you do agree on a lot of stuff. So then when a new thing comes up, you're like, well, now I have to talk about this thing. There's this new thing I need in my life, or I need a little less time here because I want to go do this thing. Like I'm going to go do some graduate work or something. And do we have the funding? And how would you still get the kind of attention you want? And how will I get the time I want? If you have that kind of foundation, because now if somebody says, boy, I really missed education and I really need to go. And the other person goes, oh, I just can't. Right. So that's when you need to have this. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry this is happening. So if you say, I was looking forward to the same future with you, because you were at some point, that's a very gracious way to say. And I see I can't be part of that future now. My goal when I help people do this and when I've done it is, because it's your choice, it's your responsibility. What is onus on you? Start with that. This is why I realize I'm not your person anymore, or I can't be your future person. Here's the things that I see are different about me, because it's so tempting to point at the other person. And you certainly could then second, I've been growing, and, really it seems you want to just stay in this place, which I really admire. And I really liked it in the beginning. And this is who I am now. And I'm going to own who I am now. So that there's no way, I'm going to say it again, there's no way not to hurt people's feelings. There's no way not to upset them. There's just no way. This is so it doesn't turn into a 10 earthquake, and it could be maybe a 3 or maybe a 4. Since we live in California, we talked about how we have earthquakes.
Yes, indeed.
you can minimize it. You can, as Barry said, you can make it less hard. You can make it less awful. And then the other part I just wanted to touch on is, can you still be friends? Boy, that's a very hard conversation to have. If you've got kids, it's imperative. Please stay friendly with each other for the kids. But if you don't have kids, staying friends is a challenge, because then do you want to hear who they're dating? Do you want to show up at something where they're with somebody else?
Yeah, I have an ex who I don't see very often, but we still stay in touch once in a while, because we did discover we were better off as friends than we were as lovers. So that was the way it worked out.
Wow.
And that's one of the things that can happen when you have a caring connection through the whole journey. And it was painful when we had the breakup. It wasn't the most ideal breakup, but it was because it was not what one of us wanted. But it was caring enough that it was like, okay, get it. It's the way it's going to be. And that made it graceful. The thing about ending the relationship the right way, as said a bit earlier, is it's not about throwing blame and crap and junk at the other person. It's about owning what's true for you. And ideally that includes being caring about the other person, but having the understanding that this is not lining up, and you're basically the two of you drifting in different directions, and that's okay. But the challenge is that when one of the person being left behind, someone gets fixated and saying, well, I'll change, which is not true, but they'll say it's trying to convince you to stay. But the thing is, when you're leaving, ideally you're not leaving at the first clue. You're leaving because you really got clear this is not working. So you can say to them, it's like, the reality is you had opportunities, and we talked about it before, but you didn't. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong, just that's a choice. And I need to take care of myself. And self-care is number one priority all the time. So choosing to leave from the place of caring and having appreciation for the other person doesn't give them the opportunity to play victim necessarily. They might want to, but that's not your control. But at least you leave from a place of respect for them and respect for yourself, which is kind of the ideal way to leave.
And I like that you keep saying caring, because if you care about yourself and you care about the other person, because I've had people leave because of substance abuse, the person, they ignored it in the beginning or was something that arrived later.
Yeah.
My sister was little one day and she came home and she said, Susie said her mom had a frog in her throat. How did it get in there? And how do you get it out? I seem to have one of those today. I think it's the weather. But if you say, I can't live this way, I can't be with you this way, I see that this is more important to you than me, I accept that, then I need to step away. And if it's a longer relationship, a year, clean and sober a year. You can have a legal separation. You can live in separate houses. Be careful if you have children. It's not a permanent thing. I have lots of people in my life that have gotten substance free. They still go to meetings. They've turned their life around a lot, and it's been years and years and years. But you can't bank on that. No. And when you say you can't anymore, you need to be prepared to leave. It can't be a veiled threat. It can never be a veiled threat.
Right. It might be possible to walk through. Yeah, I mean, it may be possible to walk through that journey together. You can be that support system for them to grow through it. Yeah. But it can be really put a test on the relationship, and you got to know what you're getting into. So make sure you make choices for yourself that really ideally lift you up and help you be more clear in what you want in a relationship.
So if you have needed to end a relationship better than you have in the past, or you have someone right now that you want to at least have a conversation like this or end a relationship, be great for you to talk to Barry or I. And the way to talk to me is to, as I mentioned, go to the website, www.theperfectcatch.com, scroll to the middle, click on what's holding you back from love questionnaire, fill out the questionnaire, schedule a time with me. I'd be so happy to talk to you. You could also send me an email at christine@theperfectcatch.com. And when you're on my website homepage, you can scroll to the bottom and click on all my social media of Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter and Instagram and YouTube and Pinterest. And on YouTube, you'll find all the wonderful videos, podcasts that Barry and I've done, and some that I did before. You can also join my mailing list to get repeats of the podcast every week, as well as find out what's going on in my life. And you can also download my free ebook. It's all the newsletters that I did combined to give you some dating advice for free. And I'd love to hear your thoughts about it. And how do people get a hold of you, Barry?
Okay. I wasn't sure if you had anything else to offer.
And I was thinking, I need a drink of water.
Okay, have a drink of water. So similar to Christine, I have a lot of stuff on my site. Again, my site is barryselby.com. At the top of the screen, there's a button you can click on to get on my calendar. I mentioned before. That gives you a chance to get on my calendar, fill out a form, and we have a conversation about where you are and want to go. If you want to just jump on my email list to get replays of the show that's sent every week, plus all the other things I'm working on, go to the bottom of the screen. There's a little opt-in at the bottom. You can just put your name and email in there, and you'll get an email from me pretty quickly with that. In the middle of the screen is one of my 2 quizzes. I have 2 relationship relevant quizzes. One is a relationship readiness assessment that's built in on the homepage, which you click on the link in the middle of the screen, or go to barryselby.com/quiz. And that basically gives you a bunch of questions that give you clarity about what you're looking for, where you want to go. So if you're not dating at the moment, you want to look where you want to go, this will help you with that. If you want to go deeper than that, I have another quiz, which is not available directly on the page, but you can go to barryselby.com/self-quiz. That is my self-relationship assessment. That's a much deeper assessment with a lot more questions and covers 7 different areas in your life about where you are in relationship to yourself, including self-support, self-talk, things like that. And it gives you a real useful download PDF you can use, which will be helpful for you. So I recommend you do the self-quiz as well, because most of my audience are very self-aware now because of that process. Also, my website is my book. I've got a lot of things there too. I have my book on my book page, which you can get on Amazon, but you can also go to my book page, read about it. It's also an audio replay of a AI-generated conversation about my book, which is pretty cool. Quick mention, I mentioned this last month, I had hosted my emotional freedom experience, the EFE, emotional experience. I've now got a waiting list that people are starting to get involved in who want to find out more about it. If you want to find out more about that, I'll put a link in my email newsletter if you're on my email list. But if you want to go there, you go to my site, which is barryselby.com/EFE list. And I'll basically put on a wait list. That's simply just a simple place to put your name as a placeholder. Don't have to do anything with it. Just simply put on the list. And when I have the next course launched, I'll send an email about that. You can check it out as well. And on social media, you can find me all over the place as Barry Selby on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Blue Sky, and on Instagram and Threads, it's The Real Barry Selby. I think that's everything.
Did you do your book?
Yes.
I was choking. Great.
Yes.
So we are here every week at 1 o'clock Pacific and 4 o'clock Eastern, and all the times in between live. So you can come watch us live and submit questions. We're happy to chat with you while we're on there. You can also watch us on YouTube and Roku, and then you can take us with you as well, right, Barry?
Absolutely, because this show is now put out as a podcast. So if you have a favorite podcast platform, be it Apple, Spotify, or any of those other platforms, you can listen to our show wherever you're going, if you're driving, hiking, whatever you're doing, and you can listen to all the shows in any order you want. We have tons of topics out there. So definitely grab hold of your favorite podcast app and make sure you like and follow our show, because we have lots of good content for you.
And people tell us they binge us. And then
Yes.
we'd love for you to like and share and review, share it with your friends that are having challenges with their dating and relationship lives as well.
Yes.
So we'll be back next week with another interesting conversation about dating and relationships. Bye for now.
Take care of yourselves.